Stripping the Dipping, where we peel back the carbon fiber layers of motorsport. And today, we've got someone who quite literally worked with carbon fiber himself. Our guest is Ian Jackson, a former composite technician in Formula One who spent years shaping the very components that turn cutting edge machines into Grand Prix winners. From hands on craftsmanship in the garage to watching the sport evolve into a global media spectacle, Ian's seen the paddock change before his eyes. Now retired from the fast lane and living the quiet life, Ian brings a refreshing, unfiltered, and deeply real perspective on the current state of F1, the behind the scenes grind of building race winning machines, and whether the soul of the sport has been lost somewhere between the data streams and Drive to Survive cameras. And yes, we'll be putting him through some rapid fire questions, pineapple on pizza, and sandwich philosophy. You'll just have to wait and hear his answers. So, without further ado, let me warmly welcome Ian Jackson. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how do? Okay, right. Well, let's see what sort of a mess I can make of this.
Well, thank you so much for accepting the invite and coming and trying out the podcast. I really appreciate it.
No worries, pleasure.
So, for the listeners of ours, please do say, who is Ian Jackson?
Oh, crikey, where do I start? I'm some old git who has done the rounds a few times, I think. Started in 1988 with ATL, doing all aspects of the fuel cells, as in the fuel tanks. They used to call themselves non-exploding petrol tanks, and possibly still do to this day. Then it was into the composites, carbon fibre, IndyCar, bit of sports car, and then into a few subsidiary companies before the Formula One with Arrows at Leafield. 4 years there, then over to Enstone, which was Benetton at the time, dying embers of Benetton, which became Renault, then Lotus, and then I was off the scene and went contracting in composites. But actually, while I went into at the end of the Arrows days, it was from composites, and I went into the model shop. From there is the wind tunnel. First of all, I think I had a week or two secondment at Bristol at Filton, and then obviously the Arrows wind tunnel, 40% at Bletchley, then the 50% at Bedford, which is now I think the Red Bull tunnel, and then after that into Benetton as a model maker. Obviously they've got their own tunnel, so which was 50% at the time. But then after the Formula One, I went into contracting, which was, I think I had a very brief spell in the model shop at Williams, but mostly it was various places on the composites and laminating, tiny bit of trimming, but mainly in the layup, which I sort of do to this day part-time. So I'm in a small family company now, so it's just nicely and keeps me occupied Monday to Wednesday.
That's a lot of experience.
Yeah, it's I suppose you discover a lot along the way, and things change around you which you have no control over. So well, at least I don't anyway. But wherever I've been, I think the companies would have had their success or otherwise in spite of me, not because of me.
Okay, so let's jump into the serious questions that I want to ask from you. The first question is, Formula One then and now, do you feel Formula One has stayed true to its engineering roots, or has it become more showbiz than sport in recent years?
Definitely the latter. My first visit to Silverstone, first race, was 1975. Then as now, it was 99% about motorsport then, with obviously a few side stands with a bit of promotion for a few things. The crowds were as large, but now I feel that it's more a family entertainment centre with motorsports as a sideshow So it's almost gone the other way around, in my opinion. Silverstone's a local circuit to me, and it's not the same place it used to be. Obviously, it's evolved over that time, and as indeed it's evolved with the sport.
Isn't it sad though, like looking at what it used to be and what it is now, and the actual fans who are very enthusiastic about the whole motorsport racing itself for Formula One since ages, they feel the lack of it and they don't feel how it is evolving, whether it's for the worse and becoming even more worse, because even on Twitter, when we talk to each other, with other people, what they say and all that, they are very disappointed, to be honest, and they just want to feel that racing enthusiastic soul, but they can't find it anymore.
I think the problem is, it used to be, in my earlier days, as a teenager into my 20s, it used to be reasonably exclusive. The might of the PR and marketing machine hadn't kicked in, and it was a lot more accessible. I had a bit of a privilege, I suppose, because a close friend of mine, his family were members of Silverstone Circuit, and we could just go over the Daily Express bridge, as it was at the time, straight in, right into the pit and the paddock. No one batted an eyelid, and you could just walk by the cars and walk up to Carlos Pache or Carlos Reutemann into the Brabham or Lauda with the Ferrari, say hello, get their autograph and stuff. And now, because it's grown so big, there are so many people that want to get into the same amount of space. It just ain't possible, and they've had to police it and put chicken wire fence up everywhere over the years, and that's a shame. But you almost can't have one. You can't have it both ways, so to speak.
But
And
as
for me, that has taken the adrenaline out of it.
Yeah, that is definitely true. But as someone who worked in the trenches of Composite, model shops, and wind tunnel, what do you make of the growing influence of social media, Drive to Survive, and commercial spectacle in today's F1? Because what I see is it's all about marketing and less about actual racing and giving the spotlight
Yeah,
for the engineers and what they're building and what they're going through and all that, but more of brand activations and celebrity sinkings and all that.
I think. I mean, I don't. To be quite honest, I don't really pay much attention to the social media. What's that drive thing? Hang on a minute. Life drive, whatever.
A drive to survive.
I've heard of it, but I wouldn't know where to go and see it or look at it or anything. It's all a bit of a mystery to me. Social media. I respond to your posts and a few others now and again. Sometimes I probably overstep the mark a bit with my comments, or I either understate or overstate, I think. But with the influence of social media, well, it's influencing every factor of life, and Formula One is not immune to that. But yeah, there's only so much the marketing and PR departments can observe about it, because the sort of secrets, for want of a better word, we sign NDAs, and we have conversations at tea breaks, which come and go and can never be sort of getting. I know people do put comments on there that maybe they shouldn't do, but I've sort of been involved in the sort of tea and lunch break conversations, but I never really sort of get that deeply involved in social media. Old school, probably, maybe. Yeah.
But do you think the hands-on skills of mechanics and technicians are being lost in an era of automation and rapid part replacements?
Some of them, unlike a lot of other industries, the advances of tech has actually created more jobs than it's lost. I mean, you look at teams from a generation ago, or in the sort of 70s and 80s, you had teams of maybe 40 or 50 people. Well, that's multiplied tenfold now, and so is the technology. You've got rapid prototyping, which is exactly what it says it is, and all these parts are made, but they still need the finishing processes. A lot of the skills have been reduced or lost with CNC and innovations and CAD CAM. Obviously, there's no such thing as manual drafting anymore. There's no such thing as manual pattern making anymore. But we still have to lay up hand components. I believe that there is. I believe there is possibly no more composite layup for the wind tunnel models. I think it's all rapid prototyping now. From what I sort of understand from roundabout. So in that sense, it's kind of created roles. But yeah, the pattern making has definitely changed. It's more a finishing process now and fettling rather than creating a shape per se. But obviously, then there's a mould making, which is still very physical. That hasn't been turned into a machine process yet. And the layup procedures, layup and breakout, trimming, that's all still very much manual. Similarly with the fabrication, I believe, obviously in the machine shop, it's not my area, but they're pressing buttons now. But I guess there are still observations for tool changes, and yeah, there's software on every machine, but there isn't the software side of layup, the composites, is the a lot of teams now employ the laser for marking out where the skins should be laid up and so forth. So it used to be all measurements and physical measuring, which I still do a bit of, which is sort of quite refreshing. But yeah, we still use scalpels and scribes, and I've still got my steel rule in my box. What have you? Yeah, full toolbox. Yeah. So,
I'm sure that
in the Formula Ones, it's pretty much the same across the board. I think that the layup and laminating procedures still very manual.
But from your perspective, what was the golden era of Formula One and why?
Simple answer: anything pre-CAD CAM and pre-software, pre-corporate. But I have to I sort of have a debate. Well, not a debate with myself, but I do wonder if Formula One would have survived had it not been for Bernie Ecclestone, love him or hate him, because he obviously brought the money in. But with bringing the money in through the big corporate people and what have you, it kind of took away the heart and the soul, and it became more. Teams have become more businesses than teams per se, and they've just grown now. It used to be a group of people who built a car during the week together and went racing at the weekend together. Obviously, not the case now, is it?
It's
very
definitely
and multi-skilled as well. You probably had one guy for the GRP side, another guy doing the fabrication, another one doing the welding, a designer, and not much more than that. The mechanics and what have you. So, but yeah, anything sort of pre that era of modernisation, I suppose. IT.
I mean, just by hearing it itself, it brings out beautiful memories that you can have with your friends. And I think nowadays the kids even they miss it and they lack that experience. And if they want to do something like that, they have to go to universities and get into a team just to have the opportunity of actually building something up with a bunch of friends and going on racing and all that, basically getting hired by Formula One and doing it rather than, doing that old school stuff. And when I see Formula One, what I see is now it's more technical than mechanical. And those days it used to be very mechanical and it used to depend on the driver's skill a lot. But now it's more than the driver's skill. It's all about what tech that they use and how they're depending and relying on technology.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm losing your. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you just disappeared for a second. That was all. Yeah. Um,
Um,
but, well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, well, I say obviously, but traditionally, I suppose the workforce came from apprenticeships, pattern making apprenticeships, tool making apprenticeships, and so forth. And a lot of the universities now do have their former student programs, which is great. And I have a good close friend who oversees one of those periodically. So in that respect, yeah, it's great that they're getting involved. But there are a lot of people all wanting that one place. And when back in my youth, it wasn't promoted as a role. People kind of fell into it accidentally, I suppose, at some point. But now everyone, because of the big machines, everyone wants to be a Formula One designer. But I think it's good if designers can somehow display something along the practical side as well. I remember there was a guy at Renault, one of the aeros, and he gave me a project to do one day for an hour or two. He said, "Can you make up this front wing, but make mistakes? Make as many mistakes as you can." So, fair enough. And he said, "Well, I've got an interview this afternoon, and I want to interview them verbally, but also put this wing in front of a potential employee and ask them to build the wing up correctly." Fair enough. So and that's the closest I've seen for many a year. Yeah.
I mean, that's how you basically learn, because you have to do a lot of mistakes to learn from it and perfect it. But nowadays, it's more like zero space and zero space for mistakes, and they want it perfect at once, but it doesn't happen. So I think we've seen over and over during these seasons also that they need to make mistakes to understand the car and to find out how to balance the car over and over again, starting from the downforce era
Yeah.
again, the hybrid
Yeah.
era as well. But I don't think some of the people understand that whole lesson, and they just want it in instant. I
Yeah.
guess it's coming with the whole technology side as well, because now the whole world is just within the tip of a finger. So in the same manner, the food is also very instant for most of the people. So in the same manner, people want all these cars and parts and everything also done perfectly within an instant, so that they can go racing and win titles and get the money and get out, rather than actually going through that process. But I guess people fail to see that regardless what we want, there's a way of life and work goes. So whether you like it or not, you need to make mistakes to make it perfect.
The thing is, it's this perfection thing, isn't it? The myth of perfection. It's perfection is a journey, not a destination. Which is, I'm not the first one to have said that by any stretch, but a few of the engineers I've worked with over the years, maybe one or two in particular, they've been adamant that it's got to be absolutely bob on, and it's just not possible to get things totally 100% accurate. Okay, it may be if we were building aircraft, which have got much longer gestation periods, then yeah, get every move you made signed off by someone. But because of the rate of pace that cars are needed on the track, it's just not physically possible to achieve it. And all teams are on a level playing field in that respect. So they're doing getting cars to the track. I'm not too sure I'd want to get in one of them. I wouldn't know how to these days.
So let me ask you this question about the modern tech viewpoint that we've been talking about. Carbon neutral fuels, hybrid powertrains, active aero. Does it excite you or feel like overcomplications?
over complications bores the hell out of me. You knew that answer was coming, didn't you?
I knew it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's an age thing. I don't know, but I don't know. I can't get on with it. I'm afraid. I've obviously had to be involved in that side by virtue of what I've made, what I have made, and making even today. But no.
I guess it is what it is these days.
But
So
no,
let
I think the thing is you can't stop technology evolving, but it's too far for an oldie like me.
I'm pretty sure it's not easy for even the youngsters to keep in touch and get updated with the speed
Yeah,
of how fast the technology is getting evolved as well. I mean,
yeah. Well,
you take generation from millenniums to Gen Z to now they
yeah,
call Alpha, and there's one more that I have no clue. So and
yeah. The youngsters don't know it because they've got no experience of it, and the olders just think, yeah.
definitely. Okay, so let us get into the rapid fire questions so that I can put you through some comical humor of asking questions. So, the first question that I ask: pineapple on pizza, culinary sin or a secret delight?
See, pepperoni only. Yeah,
Okay,
pineapple. No. Pineapple and custard, yes.
all right. The second question: if you were a sandwich, what would be in it and what would it be called?
Um, chicken, cheese, bacon. And I'll probably call it 100 octane.
That's actually a very fancy name. I like that. Okay, the third question. Would you rather change a gearbox in the rain at Spa or sit through a press conference with three PR trained drivers nowadays?
I'd sit in the press conference because then I could go to sleep for half an hour.
Definitely, you can catch some sleep.
If you'd have asked me 25, 30 years ago, I'd have said Spa, or even 40 years ago.
But nowadays, a media pen is better.
Yeah.
The fourth question. Cigarettes on the pit wall or sensors in the diffuser? Which F1 vibe do you miss most?
Not a time a smoker, or ever have been or will be, but that's the old school, isn't it? Yeah, James Hunt. Think James Hunt and Keke Rosberg.
The fifth question. If you would ban one thing from modern F1 forever, what would it be?
Out of what? What's
Out
the
of any,
choice?
and say
Because
you
because
can
because
pick
I could because
categories and then say,
I could go on forever with that one.
let's name 5 things that you want to ban.
Oh crikey, where do you start? Well, you did give me a little bit of a hint. DRS, because I think that's an easy one to ban. Team orders, but how do you get through the bureaucracy? Um, I'd I'd have to reduce the aero and make it a lot more mechanical grip. Um, but there you see a lot of aero is about sponsorship space, so it comes back to the corporate investment side again. There's a lot of changes I'd make in terms of staff structuring, put it that way. I think too much people have got too much say in how things happen. I don't really want to go too deeply into that, which I think is why I'm very happy working for a very small family business at the moment.
So the sixth question that I'm going to ask you: would you rather have dinner with Bernie Eccleston or be stuck in a lift with Christian Horner for 3 hours.
It's got to be Bernie, hasn't it? For all his faults, he's created an industry that has provided tens of thousands of jobs and given people a very good living.
I mean, when it comes to Bernie Ecclestone, a lot of people do criticize him, but I think a lot of people are missing the point also, because if he
Yeah,
didn't create this whole thing, then there wouldn't be any Formula One for us to go through and criticize
no,
us. So I mean,
no,
nobody's perfect. Just like you said, it's a bloody myth. But there are so many things that he has done to create the industry and give tens of thousands of occupations for a lot of
yeah,
people. And
mm,
even for these social media influencers and every single person who are into marketing in Formula One partnerships and sales, you call it whatever it may, all of these came to the stage because of that man doing a wonderful
yeah,
job.
yeah, exactly. So you have to sort of overlook his sins and give him that really. Yeah, yeah. So
So, one F1 car you'd want to build again with your bare hands.
it would be one of two cars. The first car I caught a glimpse of and heard going into Silverstone that first day was Mark Donoghue in Roger Penske's car, and the other one is the same day, same place, the Brabham BT44, because it was the first one I took a picture of, and that picture was stolen many years ago.
That's very
Yeah,
sad.
yeah, as indeed were all my pictures from the 70s.
Oh my
I
good
had
God.
I had a house break-in, and they took the lot.
They took the most important thing.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
must
I
be
had some
very
good
rich right
pictures.
now.
Yeah, and all my pictures up to 1988, which is no end of 1987, which is when I left my hometown and came down to work in motorsport, and well, I had to sort of leave my house during the week, and yeah, it became a target. But
Yeah,
there we are.
they were going for all of these Formula One items and stuff, definitely.
Well, there's probably a lot of spite as well because they took other stuff as well. But there we go. Long time ago.
So, is it still racing if there's no oil under your fingernails?
No.
I was expecting that answer because I don't think so as well. I agree. It's
Right.
not racing if you don't have that.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's right. I mean, for me, it's nuts, bolts, the smells of it. That's why I can't get along with the Formula E. It just doesn't float my boat, I'm afraid.
What do you miss the most in F1 now versus the earlier days?
It was a lot simpler to access, I think, and it wasn't so cluttered with what I see as unnecessary tech. Um, and it kind of did sort out a few people as well. Yeah, unless you're sort of a nuts and bolts type of man or woman, you weren't going to get along very well with it. And I think it's a bit of a contradiction, really. But I think there are so many more skill sets that have come into Formula One now. You know, you go back to Ken Toole's woodshed. You know, everyone had an engineering-based skill set, but now we have people in Formula One who know nothing about the engineering side, you know, the admin side and commercial side. You know, fair play that they're needed in this era, but you know, I know, you know, I mean, I know people who even colleagues of the past. They've only been there for the money, and they just talk about football all the rest of the day. It's just the way it is. You know,
I
you know,
mean, when I
it's a
started
very niche industry, but sorry.
no, when I started watching F1, At first, as I guess as the rest of the world, I was very intrigued to see the cars and how fast the drivers are driving it and all that. But I was always curious to know, how is it possible? Like, what is behind that car and the driver? There's more to it. So when I started the podcast, also I was interviewing people who work in the industry to get to know all these information and what they do and all that, and it actually opens a lot of opportunities. Not only opportunities, like knowledge, to see how many perspectives are there and how many different areas are there and all that. And the question that I always have is, why do the engineers and the rest of the employees who are actually the people who are actually creating these fast cars are getting paid less than the drivers? I mean, I have nothing against the drivers. It's really great that they're taking the risk and they're driving it along, and the payments that they get, that is also definitely, yes, worth it. But at the same time, I don't think that the engineers are supposed to go through payment delays or pay cuts, or getting their occupations cut due to budget caps and everything, because they're the whole cream of it. They're the ones who are creating this car to come to that platform, and it's like the Olympic version for the engineers, but I don't think the engineers are getting enough spotlight.
True. Best have a word with the HR department then. Yeah. I suppose it's the same in football, isn't it? I don't know. You got the players and the backup team and all the rest of it. Yeah. Well, Adrian's being paid more than the drivers, isn't he? But it's there used to be I think there still is. I mean, I used to play the argument with my dad back in the 70s. They're risking their lives to entertain everybody, and he'd just say, "No, they're not. They're not being forced to get into those cars. They're doing it because they want to do it, and because for a lot of them, they've probably got overinflated egos." But yeah, I suppose throughout the industry, standard is probably a better remunerated role than you'd find doing a similar role on the high street or in an industrial estate or whatever. But I don't like getting too involved in discussions about remuneration because it ends up in arguments. We all think we all think we're worth more than the next person, don't we? Well, that's according to some of the conversations I've heard over the years.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That's a
Welcome.
wrap. See another trip down memory lane and under the engine car with the brilliant Ian Jackson. So thank you so much for joining.
I don't know about brilliant. I'm just a bod.
Well, the brilliant minds like yours have created such an industry that have evolved into a major billion-dollar business globally. Without the brilliant minds like yours, it wouldn't be like this at all. So we have to appreciate you very well to understand what the sport is about as well. So
Okay, lovely. Rightio.
from
Cheers
molding
then.
carbon parts to witnessing the transformation of Formula One, from pure racing to polished showbiz, Ian's reflection reminds us what the sport was and what it could be again. To all our listeners, if you love motorsport with a side of raw honesty and old school grit, this one's for you. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave us a review if you enjoyed the ride. Until next time, keep it fast, keep it curious, and keep stripping the deep. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Go, Georgie. Thank you. Bye-bye.